Hi, everyone. Welcome to Database Security Office Hours for January of 2022. It is a new year. We have new topics, and I'd like to introduce the new host for the Database Security Office Hours, Rich Evans. Rich has returned to Oracle after some time at a startup. Rich has been with us. Actually, Rich, this is your 5-year anniversary this month.
Oh, right on.
So Rich has 5 years time at Oracle. During that time, he's been with our field engineering group and was a product manager for a while before he left for the startup. Rich, let's see, Rich, you've been an industry DBA.
Yeah.
You spent time with the Air Force Cybersecurity Command on both blue and red teams, didn't you? So just a wealth of security experience, and really, really happy to have you on the team and taking over the office hours.
Thanks, Russ. I'm excited to be back.
So, Rich, I'm going to turn it over to you and take it away.
All right. Thanks, Russ. Appreciate it. Hey, thanks, everybody, for joining us on the first Ask Tom Database Security Office Hours of 2022. Like Russ said, my name is Richard Evans. I go by Rich, and I'll be your host today. Today's topic is getting your database security into shape. Now, just as a reminder, this call is going to be recorded. And these recordings are going to be available at asktom.oracle.com a few days after the live presentation. If this is your first time joining us, welcome. The Database Security Office Hours provide you with a direct channel to Oracle Database Security product development. This is our way of getting what's new out to you and to interact with you, the users of Oracle Database and Oracle Database Security products. Each session will include relevant product announcements and a technical topic. We'll also have time at the end of the session for you to ask questions that may or may not be related to today's presentation. Now, please understand, we'll do our best to answer your questions, but we can't take questions on service requests. If you don't feel comfortable providing or asking your question in the Q&A, then feel free to contact us offline or at asktom.oracle.com, and we'll reach out to you privately. All right, so we host these every month on the second Wednesday of every month. So go ahead and mark your calendar for February so you can join us again in February. All right, so at any time, if you have any questions, please go ahead and ask them in the Q&A panel, and we'll try to get to those either during or after the session. All right, we're going to start with some announcements. First, it's just about that time again. On or around January 18th, so next week, Oracle will release the first quarterly patch of 2022. This release update will contain bug fixes and security patches. You can find the updates on My Oracle Support or by navigating to oracle.com/security-alerts. The final patch is available for Oracle Key Vault 18, bringing it to 18.8. The patch can be downloaded from My Oracle Support, and the OCI Marketplace images have been updated to reflect the latest release. One reason the OCI Marketplace images are important is we have several customers that extend their on-premise Key Vault cluster by using the OCI Marketplace image. Now, we want all of our Key Vault customers to be on or have plans to move to Key Vault 21 because version 18 is out of support in April 2022, which is only 4 months away. I can't believe it's here already, but 4 months away, Key Vault 18 will be out of support. So please upgrade your Key Vault environments to 21 as soon as possible. Oracle Audit Vault and Database Firewall have been updated to version 20.6. This release provides bug fixes and security patches, as well as a handful of new features, including an automated pre-check that checks critical component versions during the Audit Vault agent installation to ensure a more reliable installation. The audit trail status now provides better historical data on audit trail downtime. The platform certificates automatically renew before expiring. The user's preferred time zone is customizable in the UI console. And the targets we support have been updated to include SQL Server Standard Edition 2019, monitoring of SQL Server cluster, and for installation of kernel-based virtual machines. As always, you can go to myOracleSupport.com and download the upgrade software. The patch is 33572423. Before Christmas, we were happy to announce the integration of autonomous database authentication and authorization with OCI IAM. So this allows administrators of autonomous database shared to manage their database users centrally, instead of on a database by database basis. Database users can log in using a single IAM database password instead of different usernames and passwords for each of their databases. We now support IAM native token-based authentication to autonomous database shared. Two-tier tools or application, those with native database accounts, can be updated to request OCI IAM database tokens for authentication. If you're using those tokens, this will require you to update the 19C JDBC or instant client drivers. If you want to get started, you can use the OCI free tier to implement this in your environment. And for more information, see the IAM integration chapter of the database security guide for 19C. Relevant to today's discussion, Enterprise Manager has some minor enhancements and additions to the sensitive data types found in the UI. With Oracle Database 13C Release 5 Update 1, you can find a few dozen new predefined types, including age, card expiration date, card security code, first name, full name, last name, postal code, and more. All right, in this month's Support Corner note, we're highlighting the Database Security Assessment DBSAT notes. The first note is the primary note for DBSAT 24841.219.1, and it's the index to all relevant notes and information. The second note is where you can download DBSAT utility and the utilities zip, and it is 2138254.1. Another important thing for me to cover is Oracle's response to the Apache Log4j vulnerabilities and how you can identify whether the products you use are affected. So on this slide, you're going to see 4 My Oracle support notes. The first discusses the vulnerabilities as it relates to the Oracle database and contains information that supplements the contents of the second My Oracle support note. From the second document, Oracle support has now subdivided it into 2 notes, making it easier to digest. 2830129.1 covers Oracle Cloud products, while 2830143.1 covers the on-premises products. So after you've reviewed these documents, if you have any questions on Log4j vulnerabilities or other security-related questions, please open a security service request with Oracle support. They'll be able to provide you with the most current and accurate information. All right, so let's get started on today's technical topic. This month, we're talking about getting your database security into shape. We all have New Year's resolutions. Some of us want to eat better. Some of us want to exercise. Some want to better our knowledge. What if we applied the same concept to our database security? So what if we did a little bit now to improve the security of our configuration? What if we identified some of those unused accounts or privileges, or maybe where that sensitive data resides? Then you'll know you'll be able to meet or exceed those industry or corporate compliance standards that you know you're going to have to deal with again this year, right? Ultimately, the goal here is to protect the data. So let's jump on this early in the year, have an understanding of what our baseline is and what we want to accomplish in 2022. To get started, let's think about this as our 3-pillar framework. Our first is our assessment pillar. We'll analyze the security of our database, look for sensitive data, and consider the risks to those database and the data. The second and third we'll cover later in the year and in various monthly topics are the prevention and detection pillars of database security. All right, let's focus on the assessment phase here. Today, we're going to divide the assessment pillar into 4 components. The first is configuration settings. We need to know what our database parameters are set to, what our patching level is, and what features or options we're using. The second is users and privileges. We need to know who has access to what within the database. Third is discovering sensitive data. Do we have PCI, PHI, PII, and if so, what schema has it? And finally, Are we aware of changes to any of these three? Do we know when an initialization parameter is changed, a new feature is used, a user is created, or when sensitive data is inserted? Everything we do is focused on reducing the attack surface and reducing the risk to the organization. Today we're going to relate those 4 components to 4 tools that Oracle provides either as part of the license or as a licensable option. Database Security Assessment Tool, the Data Masking and Subsetting Pack for sensitive data discovery that is licensable from Enterprise Manager 13C, Oracle Privilege Analysis, and Oracle Data Safe. So let's start with that configuration settings where we're going to talk about the capabilities of DBSAT and Data Safe. So it's important to check configuration to identify whether or not you meet your own company standards. Are you in line with the way the product should be installed, maintained, or upgraded? Does your configuration meet industry or regulatory compliance? By checking and maintaining the proper security configuration, you minimize the risk to your database, your data, and ultimately the organization. Everything we do goes toward reducing the attack surface and reducing the risk to our organization. Configuration settings can be verified with 2 of the 4 tools or products we're discussing today, DBSAT and DataSafe. Database Security Assessment Tool has been one of our most popular tools over the past 5 years. DBSAT is available from My Oracle Support and is popular because it requires no installation or configuration, and also because it's included with your support license, so you can download it free of charge. Basically, you unzip the Python tool, you execute it, and it provides you with detailed findings and a summary for you to review. DBSAT provides you with recommendations based on Oracle and industry standards such as GDPR, STIG, and CIS. You can run it as many times as you like, create your own little inventory at a point in time, and then compare those. We try to update DBSAT 4 times a year as we evaluate whether or not your database is on the latest release update. DataSafe is very similar to DBSAT, and that's because the team that works on DBSAT also works on DataSafe's user and security assessments. DataSafe is our cloud-based security solution that provides a similar comprehensive assessment of security parameters, security controls and use, as well as evaluating users' roles and privileges. Like DBSAT, it provides recommendations and maps to the most common frameworks. DataSafe goes a step further, though, and allows you to see the results across your database fleet, including autonomous, database cloud service, and on-prem database. DataSafe also provides a method to perform historical comparisons, something you could do with DBSAT, but you'd have to roll your own solution. Now, which tool is right for this? Well, it depends. DBSAT is quick with no installation. Simply unzip the archive and run it. DataSafe is a cloud-based solution that can automatically identify your autonomous databases. DBSAT is available to every licensed customer. DataSafe is included with Oracle's cloud services. And if you want to monitor on-prem databases, then you'll need to license that option. DBSAT supports multiple languages, while DataSafe provides out-of-the-box drift detection. If you're an administrator who likes to write shell scripts or Python scripts, DBSAT is a really great tool to build around. If you're more interested in getting up and running quickly and seeing a fleet view, that's where DataSafe shines. Both are outstanding tools, both have outstanding capabilities, and you may use a combination of both to reach your goal. All right, so let's talk about users and privileges, and we're going to talk about DBSAT, privilege analysis, and DataSafe. So it's important to review your users and privileges for similar reasons to verifying configurations. Like, do you meet your own company standards? Does your company require an annual attestation process be completed? For example, is Deborah still with the company? If not, why does she still have an account in the database? Like maybe an HR analyst has a DBA role and you've given them that role or higher privileges as part of testing in a non-production environment. Should he have those privileges in production? Are you configuring third-party products with the users and privileges the way the vendor recommends? Does your configuration meet that industry standard or regulatory compliance? And would you consider the privilege granted to be the least privilege required for that user to perform their tasks? So By reviewing users and privileges, you can create a baseline for who has access and what privileges they have. This baseline allows you to identify areas for improvement. So we're going to talk about DBSAT, privilege analysis, and data safe with respect to users and privileges. DBSAT again, because it collects information on the users, roles, and privileges. DBSAT can tell you what system privileges have been granted to public, to DBAs, whether they were granted directly or through roles, whether they were granted with admin option, or if those roles come commonly from the container database. DBSAT cannot tell you, though, is who granted those roles. That would be an auditing capability, but it can show you the difference between collections with the DBSAT diff tool, which we'll talk about in the final section. Now, privilege analysis makes its appearance here because this is where it shines. Privilege analysis can capture what privileges were used over the monitoring period, so you know whether or not a privilege was used. This is extremely helpful for that attestation that you're responsible for, as well as helping you reduce the attack surface by removing those unused privileges from user accounts. Now, privilege analysis used to be a part of the database vault license, but was moved into the core enterprise edition license in November of 2018, ensuring that most of our customer base has access to it. Still in the toolkit is data safe because it has those capabilities of DBSAT. Data safe takes it a step further by categorizing user risk based on severity and giving you a dashboard that identifies highly privileged users. DataSafe can also allow you to schedule and run user assessment compares to see what has changed. Again, DataSafe is included for our customers using the Oracle Cloud and is licensable for those who want to use it to assess on-prem databases. Like DBSAT, reports from DataSafe are available in multiple formats such as PDF or Excel spreadsheet. Now, what tool is right? Well, it depends. Again, if you want something quick and easy with no installation, DBSAT is there for you. If you want something that does automatic risk scoring, is web-based, and can provide you with a view of users, roles, and privileges across your database fleet, then DataSafe is a choice. Out of the three, privilege analysis is the only tool that can show you the used and unused privileges during a capture run. That's a fantastic feature that should encourage you to use privilege analysis in combination with DBSAT or DataSafe. So let's talk about the capabilities around sensitive data discovery. In this section, we're going to talk about DBSAT, Enterprise Manager 13C Sensitive Data Discovery, and DataSafe. First, we're going to talk about why it's so important to identify sensitive data, and then we're going to dive into those three tools: DBSAT, Enterprise Manager, Sensitive Data Discovery, and DataSafe. So as a DBA or a security team member or developer, it's important to know whether or not the data you're working with is sensitive. It's important to the organization to identify the sensitive data to allow the organization to perform two critical tasks. First, we need to identify the risk to the organization if that data is exposed or lost. And second, we need to decide how to mitigate, transfer, avoid, or accept the risk. Doing so requires the organization to decide, well, what is the sensitivity of that data? Where is it located? How much are they willing to invest in mitigating, transferring, avoiding, or accepting the risk? And what level of effort would be required to do any of this? DBSAT has a separate module specifically for searching for sensitive data. This module comes with 8 different sample language patterns, such as English, French, Portuguese, Spanish, and examines data on a schema by schema basis, allowing you to decide whether or not you want to check all the schemas or focus on a few specific. DBSAT does not look at the data, but focuses on the column names and column comments, then groups the results by customizable sensitive category. DBSAT also gives you a rough estimate of how much sensitive data you have by category by using table statistics. Row count can be helpful to know so you can know where to focus your efforts. Do we want to focus on low-hanging fruit, or do we want to get the most bang for our buck? The powerful thing about DBSAT is the pattern matching file is customizable to your organization. If you know your organization has specific column names or comments for account numbers or other sensitive data, then you can include those in the pattern file and search for them. There's a lot an administrator can do with DBSAT. Oracle Enterprise Manager also examines column names and comments, but it also analyzes the data to suggest whether a particular column data might contain sensitive data. For example, if you have a comments field, a comments column, a lot of times you'll see that maybe a customer support rep will put some sensitive data in there. Enterprise Manager Sensitive Data Discovery can help you identify that sensitive data is in that comments column. Like DBSAT, it has standard out-of-the-box pattern matching that you can customize to fit your organization's data types and standards. The difference is that Enterprise Manager first requires you to create an application data model that shows how the schemas, tables, and columns relate to one another. Now, this can be very handy if you plan on masking that data, but is not essential for discovering sensitive data. Unlike DBSAT, Enterprise Manager doesn't estimate how many rows might be sensitive either. Now, this might not be a big deal, but again, it's always nice to know the size and scope of data that you're working with when you're dealing with sensitive data. DataSafe is basically the best of both DBSAT and Enterprise Manager sensitive data discovery capabilities. DataSafe checks the column names, the comments, and the column data, and then gives you an estimate as to how much sensitive data exists in your database by total values, by type, by table, and by number of columns. DataSafe has over 125 built-in sensitive data types, and it's also extensible like DBSAT or Enterprise Manager. With DataSafe, the sensitive data model is also the application data model, which allows you to skip the step of creating that application data model while still quickly identifying schema changes that might include new sensitive data columns, comments, or column data. Now, again, let's compare and contrast the tools here. DBSAT does not search column data, but it makes it very easy to create search formats in any language, and it doesn't require that application data model. Enterprise Manager is a point-and-click product, but requires building and verifying the application data model before searching for sensitive data. DataSafe kind of meets in the middle. It has those capabilities of both DBSAT and Enterprise Manager with the benefit of an application data model, but without that drawback of having to do it to execute it before running sensitive data discovery. DataSafe also looks across the fleet to see how much total sensitive data you have and where it's located. Now, our final function today is that drift detection and notification, and we're going to talk about DBSAT, privilege analysis, and DataSafe. Now, when I think about drift detection notification, I think about getting an alert on a dashboard or a notification through email or subscription when something has changed. It's important to know when security configuration has changed, or maybe when a user is granted DBA privileges or some type of anomaly that makes me say, hang on a second, why is that different today than it was yesterday? We're going to cover DBSAT, privilege analysis, and DataSafe in this exercise. All right, first, database security assessment tool, DBSAT, does not have any built-in drift detection or notification, but because it's Python-based, the sky's the limit. On My Oracle Support, you'll find the note that contains the DBSAT zip, but also contains the DBSAT utilities. These utilities are the diff and the extract, and they allow you to compare two reports and identify the difference. For example, the second report shows that Stephen King has a select any table privilege where he did not have in the previous run. Now, as I've said, the sky's the limit because of the flexibility of DBSAT, because it's Python-based. If you're a skilled Linux script writer, or if you're skilled with Python, then you can build DBSAT into a cron or job scheduler and run it as you wish. You could take the output files of JSON, text, or Excel and load them into an Oracle database and build your own assessment inventory. We've had a lot of customers do this for their on-prem databases. Like DBSAT, privilege analysis has no built-in drift detection or notification, but what it does have is the power of the Oracle database with SQL and PL SQL behind it. You can use Oracle's database job scheduler to schedule privilege analysis captures. Then you can use SQL to identify the difference between the runs. And if you're an advanced user, you could write PL SQL packages to show the difference between the runs and notify you if there's a new privilege that has been used in the last run. So for example, on the screen, I'm comparing run A and run B here. I'm just selecting all of the used sys privileges from here. And in run B, Stephen King has utilized that select any table where he had not used it in run A. Now, DataSafe is going to be the most advanced product we have for detecting drift with database configuration, user privileges, and sensitive data. DataSafe automatically generates user and security assessments and automatically compares new assessments against your baseline. DataSafe can notify you of deviations for the user and security baselines using the OCI notifications service. Now, which tool is right? Well, there's no perfect tool here. DBSAT provides some rudimentary tools to perform differences between reports. The benefit of DBSAT is that it performs and provides those outputs in multiple formats, which could be used to build that drift and notification system. Privilege analysis now has the same thing. Privilege analysis, though, is only helpful for used versus unused privileges. So we could write some PL SQL or SQL to compare runs and email it, but it can't help us with drift notification for configuration or sensitive data. Again, DataSafe kind of provides the best solution here, allowing us to set up baselines for users and security assessments and utilize the OCI notification service to receive emails or push notifications. Combine DataSafe or DBSAT with privilege analysis, and you're moving in the right direction. All right, so now in summary here, you're going to say, well, Rich, you gave me a ton of information in a very quick period of time here. We covered database security assessment tool, we covered sensitive data discovery, privilege analysis, and DataSafe. And then we talked about them in terms of configuration settings, users and privileges, sensitive data discovery, as well as drift detection. Now, how do I rank these? Like, where should I start? What should I do? And I would tell you that I would rank them like this. I think DataSafe is number one for configuration settings because it's got the security and assessment. It can look across the fleet. DBSAT is fantastic because DataSafe was built on DBSAT, right? And sensitive data discovery and privilege analysis don't play in this space, so we're not going to include them in our results. For users and privileges, privilege analysis, I would give it the top spot because it can tell me what privileges were used versus unused. And that's really important if I'm trying to reduce the risk and reduce that attack surface, and I want that least privilege model within my organization. DataSafe I'd put as number two because it combines kind of the best of what we offer in the cloud and that fleet view with what we've built with database security assessment tool, DBSAT. Sensitive data discovery, privilege analysis doesn't play here. I'd put DataSafe as number one again because it doesn't require you to build that application data model first. It builds that sensitive data model behind the scenes after you've discovered that sensitive data. If you're an on-prem customer and you've been using Enterprise Manager for a long time, sensitive data discovery is number two, right? It's got those capabilities. And as I mentioned in the announcements, we've extended some of those sensitive types to include some out-of-the-box ones, some new out-of-the-box ones, and then you can extend those yourself. DBSAT, I'd put third. It does a good job, but it doesn't look at the column data. So I would put that 3 out of 3 on this list. And like I said, privilege analysis doesn't play in this space. Sensitive data discovery, I gave an NA for drift detection and notification because we're focusing on the sensitive data discovery. Enterprise Manager has a robust notification scheduler. that wasn't the focus. I focused on the database security components. If you're interested more in what Enterprise Manager can do for their notification scheduler, check out the Enterprise Manager page on oracle.com. For this, again, I put DataSafe as number 1 because it takes advantage of the OCI notification service. DBSAT, I put as number 2. I mean, I could have put maybe NA for this and privilege analysis, but I said, well, a lot of folks have scripts that already notify them if the table space is too full or if the operating system file system is too full. So maybe they could take advantage of those scripts and those capabilities that they built over their career and integrate DBSAT or privilege analysis into this. And I gave DBSAT the edge here because it does cover the configuration settings. It does cover the users and privileges, and it can cover the sensitive data discovery for columns and column comments, where privilege analysis just looks at those used and unused privileges, which is really important, but doesn't cover the whole thing here. So, okay. So, in summary, it's a new year, right? It's a new you. It's a new me. We want to start the year off. Let's just get an assessment. Let's get a baseline. Let's understand where we're at. Let's look at where our sensitive data is, what our configurations are. Let's take a look at our users, our roles, our privileges, what privileges are used versus unused. And let's just evaluate where we're at today. So in a few months, we can look at it again and see, oh, we've made some progress. We've applied some patches. We've got rid of some users that had select any privileges. We've deleted users that no longer exist, right? So we want to set that baseline and understand what we're doing now so we can have a good 2022, and Oracle's got the tools to help you. Now I want to talk a little bit more about if you want to get hands-on with these tools, Oracle LiveLabs is the perfect environment to do it. We've got the database security workshop where you can kick the tires on the database security assessment tool, native network encryption, privilege analysis, transparent sensitive data protection, as well as unified auditing. So if you go to your favorite search engine and you type in Oracle LiveLabs Database Security Basics, you're going to find the link. The link is on here as well, but it's a long, hard to digest link here. But if you just use your search engine, use your browser, you can search for LiveLabs Database Security Basics, and you can kick the tires spin up a free tier tenancy and run the labs, or you can import that virtual machine into your own tenancy and run it there. There are step-by-step instructions that'll walk you through this lab, as well as dozens of other labs as well, security and non-security related. Same thing goes for privilege analysis. If you search for LiveLabs Privilege Analysis Workshop, you're going to find the Privilege Analysis Workshop out there where you can get an introduction, kick the tires on privilege analysis. You can do it in your environment. If you have an Oracle Enterprise Edition license and you're on at least 12.1 of the database, then you've got privilege analysis built into the database. But if you'd prefer to use our environment and walk through our labs, then please check out LiveLabs for that. Same thing with data masking and subsetting. This might be good to do in the LiveLabs environment because Enterprise Manager is a hefty installation. And we've got some test data out there for you to run sensitive data discovery as well as data masking on our data as well. So just go ahead and search for Oracle LiveLabs data masking. And finally, if you want to take a look at the LiveLabs for DataSafe, we've got the Oracle DataSafe Fundamentals Workshop out there. And if you look for Oracle LiveLabs DataSafe on Google or Yahoo or Bing, you're going to get directed to our LiveLabs DataSafe Fundamentals Workshop. So again, you can spin up that tenancy. You can work with DataSafe. You can walk through our labs, and you get a feel for how it's working from there. All right, so I hope to see you guys in February. The next Database Security Office Hours will be Wednesday, February 9th, 2022. We'll get this recording up on asktom.oracle.com here in the next few days. Now we're going to go ahead and start the Q&A portion of it.